Welcome to the Pocket. My name is Scooter, here to present to you my Week 8 preview of the Giants' away matchup in Pittsburgh against the Steelers on Monday Night Football. Now, please leave a like to support the channel if you like the video, and subscribe to see more Giants content if you are a Giants fan. Please come and suffer throughout the rest of the season with me. I do previews and reactions of each game, so let's get right into it. Giants are traveling to Pittsburgh Monday night, so an extra day for each team to prepare that they wouldn't normally have. Interesting to see how the coaching comes into play with that. It's really just one day, but made a difference in the Seattle game. And now the Giants are coming off their worst week against Saquon Barkley and the Eagles in his revenge game and all that. First game without Andrew Thomas was terrible. Every time we lose him, we're incapable of doing anything on offense. And Daniel Jones must really trust him because without him, I get his Wadu isn't great at all at tackle. It's not what he's supposed to do. The offense just falls apart without him. And the Giants are just so awful at home. At this point, when we're away, is that like us actually being home, like we have an away field advantage? It's just better for us? I don't know. I think we might prefer it at this point. Now, the Steelers are coming off a great week where they made Russell Wilson the starter for the first time this season over Justin Fields. And they played against the Jets, and it started off a little shaky. But Danger Russ started cooking, and he lit up the Jets. The Steelers ran the ball really well, but when it was necessary and when it was there, Russ was able to connect on some deep shots to Pickens. And on this offense, with this defense that they have, that's all you really need out of the quarterback. That's all the Steelers have needed for years. So I think Russ is actually a really great fit for the Steelers. And what they want to do on offense really reminds me of the old days of Russell Wilson, where they were running the ball with Marshawn Lynch and throwing deep balls to Jermaine Kearse, Doug Baldwin, and I think it was a rookie, Tyler Lockett. So very reminiscent of the old days of Russell Wilson, and I think he's here to stay as the Steelers quarterback. So this is a great week for the Steelers that they're coming off of, and a very bad week for the Giants. Now, talking about injuries, still on the IR for the Giants, it's Kayvon. He's going to come back in like week 10. Andrew Thomas out for the season. Gano, who knows when he's going to come back, kicker, hamstring. And I think it was like a groin as well. Just who knows with him. We're going with Greg Joseph. And now we had some full participants: Bryce Ford Wheaton, Jalen Hyatt. Malik Neighbors is the real difference maker. If one of those two guys missed, I don't think it would have too much of an impact. Limited participants: Dexter Lawrence, Cordell Flott, and Trey Hawkins with a hip, groin, and ankle, respectively. I think probably all three of these guys are going to end up playing. Dexter Lawrence is just kind of taking one of those veteran rest days, as they call it. And then some dude did not participate. Adoree Jackson with a neck. Oh my God, what's going on with that? Jermaine Illuminar, hip. That would be very bad. If we don't have Jermaine Illuminar, we are even more cooked than we already were. Brian Burns, groin and Achilles. I want to know what that is. I got to look more into that. Sorry I didn't do it before this video, but groin/Achilles did not participate. Looked like he was walking off the field pretty strangely last week, and hopefully he's okay. Right? If he has to miss this game, that's totally fine. Let's make sure he's healthy for the rest of the season. Jamie Gilliam still questionable with the left hamstring, and then linebacker Ty Summers. So we could be missing 4 starters, 2 defensive players, 1 offensive player, and 1 special teams player, that being Jamie Gilliam. And we're already missing Andrew Thomas and Kayvon. For the Steelers, they have Troy Fautanu with a kneecap surgery, I believe he had. He's out for the season. James Daniels, their guard, tore his Achilles earlier this year. And then Nate Herbig, the original starting center, tore his rotator cuff. And he has a chance to come back, but he's going to be out for a long time. And now they also have Dylan Cook. Their one of their backup tackles was a full participant, but he's still on the IR, so they'll need to activate him if they want to play him. And I hope I say this right. Linebacker Tyler Matakevic. Definitely absolutely butchered that name. I've never said his name before, so give me a break. He's got a hamstring, and he was a limited participant. And then DeMonte Casey, full participant at safety. Dante Jackson, full participant with the shoulder. Keanu Benton, full participant with the calf. Patterson, limited with the ankle. That's Cordell Patterson. Deshaun Elliott, He's limited with a back injury. And then Roman Wilson, Nate Herbig, and Zach Frazier. Nick Herbig, actually, that's the brother, I believe, of Nate Herbig. Nick Herbig is a linebacker. And center Zach Frazier, ankle, did not participate, those three. Also, Isaac Seumalo, I think I said that right. And then Cameron Hayward had veteran rest days. They did not participate. So they are already missing 3 offensive linemen that they lost earlier this year. 4, including Zach Frazier, who did not participate. And I guess Seumalo is definitely going to play. So that's where that's going to max out. So I don't want to fall into the same trap as last week where I say, oh, look at this injured offensive line. This Giants defensive line is going to take advantage and whatnot. No. But their own line is not healthy. Pretty much everything else looks like it's good for them. But that is something that could be exposed, so that's something to keep in mind. Overall, comparing the injuries for both teams, I'd say the Steelers are healthier. I think just missing Andrew Thomas alone for the Giants' offensive line is worse than them missing all 3 of these guys because it seems like they've still been able to be somewhat effective with their offensive line, suffering those injuries earlier, making the adjustments. It seems like they've been doing quite all right, especially last week against the Jets' defensive line. So now, that's the injuries. We'll go into the key players for this week's game. And for the Giants, we will start it off with Daniel Jones. It's obvious, right? I mean, we're not home, so he doesn't have that mojo working against him, but he does have the primetime mojo working against him. You just never know what you're going to get with him. Like I said, when he's away, it's like he's playing at home and not in like a good way. It's like you could imagine he should be twice as good at home than he normally is and just stay the same at away games, and he would be a much better quarterback. But if he can have one of these good games that he tends to have in the away games, then we can chew a lot of clock and the total will be low. Obviously, that increases our chances of winning. So, as Brian Daboll said, I do believe if he can do that, he would give us the best chance to win. And even though his time is likely over with the Giants, I do believe that even if he plays well over the next 2, 3, 4 weeks, rest of the season, I don't care. I'm pretty sure his time is up. He's going to have to be advertising and marketing himself to whatever team is going to potentially be interested in him next year or the year after, whatever it may be. So he's not going to give up, right? He's not going to give up on the Giants, and he's not going to give up on himself. So moving on to my next guy for the Giants, Deonte Banks. They will go after him with Pickens. We've seen earlier this year him get picked on by guys like Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, and then pulling it together in the Seattle game against DK Metcalf. But either way, he has been exposed as someone you can beat deep or, catch in a lack of effort play. And Pickens is one of those guys who's just very hostile, right? He's going to give it everything he's got on every step of every play that maybe isn't run blocking. This is receiving we're talking about. So Banks is going to have to give maximum effort to make sure he doesn't miss any tackles, that he doesn't get absolutely mossed by Pickens. If Banks can play the way he did against DK, against Pickens, I like his chances to, hold him under, say, 50 yards or just make sure he doesn't get like a 30-plus yard catch or anything like that. Up next, Tyler Nubin. He leads the Giants in tackles this season. He also leads in solo tackles, and he's second in assists. So clearly he's all over the field. And he's going to have to stay focused this week. He's going to be challenged by this Arthur Smith run game and just this entire strange scheme that he seems to run where you never know who's going to get the ball. There's a lot of misdirection. And not everyone can do everything like San Francisco, but you like to have versatility of, just getting the players on your team, the ball in their hands so they can make plays on the run, right? Run after catch. They got 2 tight ends, Darnell Washington and Pat Freiermuth. They're both healthy. And they might even have all 3 of their running backs, Cordero Patterson, Najee Harris, who seems to be the solidified starter, and Jalen Warren should be healthy this week. And all these guys have many different skill sets. Darnell Washington is huge. He's like 6'7". He's a great run blocker, but also if you leave him alone in the flat and he catches a pass, he's probably going to take it for 10 yards because it's not going to be easy to tackle someone who's like 270 pounds with a full head of steam. Pat Freiermuth, more of your traditional tight end, 6'5", 6'6", right? Decent run blocker, but just more of a vertical threat down the seam. And then obviously all three running backs are very different. Najee's your bruiser, Jalen Warren's your explosive third down guy, and then Cordell Patterson you can just throw in there for anything, and Arthur Smith will figure something out for him. So Tyler Nubin is going to have to keep track of all the misdirection and make sure he keeps his eye on where the ball is going, because if he gets faked out, right, I'm really not confident that the rest of this Giants secondary is going to be able to make up for him missing that tackle, right? But if he can sniff out these strange plays, these jet sweeps, right, all this weird stuff that they like to do, then I could see that being some TFLs. It's not a sack, but it's pretty close, right? Loss of a down, loss of yards. You're sending them backwards. That's a good way that we can keep them behind the sticks. So that's it for the Giants. Daniel Jones, Deontay Banks, and Tyler Nubin, two defensive players, and then just the quarterback. The offensive line we'll get into later. For the Steelers, it's going to be George Pickens. I mentioned him earlier with Banks. That's a head-to-head matchup right there. A.J. Brown was like kind of the nail in the coffin last week. I know it was early in the game, but as soon as he caught that long touchdown, it's just like, yeah, the Giants are keeping up in this game. They can't stop Saquon. As long as we could slow down or, make sure A.J. Brown and Smitty don't score, then we should be okay. But we did, and then the floodgates just kind of opened. The Eagles can just lean on the run game and do that for the rest of the game. I'm pretty sure Hurts finished with like 114 passing yards. He really didn't have to do much besides complete that pass to A.J. Brown. So the Steelers are going to try to do a very similar thing. They're going to try to run the ball, and then when we creep up, they're going to try to hit a deep shot to Pickens, and they're going to target Banks. Eventually, he's going to be left one-on-one, or, we might just leave Cordell Flott alone one-on-one with him. Let's hope that doesn't happen, though. Either way, you see the point that I'm trying to make. If Pickens can make a deep catch or get a long touchdown, then that is going to be the difference in this game. I feel like even though our run defense isn't great, if we can manage to stop them from getting any explosive plays, we can manage to stay in the game. So Pickens, he's going to have to deliver. And then the next two I'm sort of grouping together is Cameron Hayward and Alex Highsmith. Cameron Hayward is the interior defensive lineman for the Steelers, and Alex Highsmith is the opposite edge, the other guy on the other side of TJ Watt. So Watt is going to get a ton of attention. This offensive line for the Giants is very vulnerable, and the Steelers know that, and the Giants know that. So I would assume that they're going to say, all right, let's not leave TJ Watt one-on-one with any of our guys. Let's chip with a tight end or a running back or whatever we have to do, right? Even double teams. Maybe even both. He's that good. But what that's going to do is it's going to leave guys like Cameron Hayward and Alex Highsmith, two very quality players, above average players at their position, one-on-one with our offensive line. Luminor, even if he does play, he's potentially not even 100% healthy. So if he's going to have to deal with Alex Highsmith, he got beat last week by Bryce Huff, right? A couple plays. Bryce Huff hasn't done anything this year up until that point. And Illuminor has been great, don't get me wrong, but I think maybe he was nursing a bit of an injury in last week's game. Cameron Hayward, we saw not Jordan Davis, but Jalen Carter just be sort of disruptive. I can't remember if he had a sack or not, but I just remember watching the game, it looking like JMS was having a lot of trouble handling him. And Van Roten, of course, has been pretty decent, but I think Cam Hayward, even though they're both older and veteran guys, I think Cameron Hayward is probably, better at this point in his career than Van Roten. And then John Runyon, who knows where Cameron Hayward is going to be lined up, but I hope it's on Runyon because he's probably our best remaining offensive lineman besides Illuminor. And like I said, doesn't really seem healthy. So these two are going to get an opportunity to step up and get some sacks as we give all of our attention to TJ Watt. Now, that's the key players. We've talked about the injuries. All of this being said, what's going to be the game plan from both teams? The Steelers run the ball. This Giants run defense has been pretty bad, pretty squishy. 7th most yards allowed, 967 yards. 2nd highest yards per carry allowed. Oh my God, I can't stand that. 5.4 yards per carry. Tied for first most 20-plus yard rushes with 9. Tied for first. And then alone in first place for 40-plus yard rushes with 4 allowed. It's just like pretty much everything, every bad stat you could have as a run defense, it's there. I mean, I I don't really know what to say. I wasn't really expecting this from the Giants defense, but the Steelers offense, we know this is what they want to do, right? Even though they've tried, they haven't been really that efficient or effective. But last week with Russ, it looked pretty good, and I would anticipate that they try to do the same thing this week. Also, the Giants have still allowed the third highest completion percentage on pass defense. So any Arthur Smith extensions of the run game, screens, anything going on behind the line of scrimmage, whatever it is, any extension of the run game is also going to assist them in just slowly moving the ball down the field where we can't stop them, chew up a bunch of clock, and they score. And that would just be my game plan for the entire game. The Giants are still first in sacks with 31, which is why the pass defense is good. But if they don't need to take a shot to Pickens, I don't think they should. Because why would you? When the only thing the other team's defense can really do at an elite level is get sacks, why would you choose to do a play where you were forced to sit in the pocket? So defensively for the Steelers, it's pretty simple. Stop the run and force DJ to pass behind the poor Giants offensive line. Now for the Giants game plan. Offensively, we must pretty much do exactly what they're trying to do against us. We, last 2 weeks, have had, like 3 or 4 carries to our running backs going into half. That cannot happen again. We must beat them at their own game. We must run the ball as effectively as we possibly can, hit a few deep shots to Malik Neighbors, and call it a day. The extensions of the run game with stuff like Wandale and all that kind of stuff that we do and that they do on offense, I think it's pretty astonishing how similar these two teams are. I do genuinely believe they're going to go into this game with the same game plan, essentially, from both sides. And it's just going to be, okay, who screws up the least? Who gets a defensive touchdown? So I guess now it's time for me to give my take. Vegas says it's going to be a Steelers victory somewhere between 22-15 and 21-15. That's a 36.5-point total. So say 20-17. But then when you throw in Pittsburgh -6, it becomes, say, 22-15 or something like that. That looks about right to me. I mean, of course, the Steelers could absolutely roll the Giants and you could hit the over, or the Giants could actually end up playing well on defense throughout the entire game, and it could be one of those primetime games like the Bills last year where it's like a 10-7 game. Could totally see that too. Honestly, I think that's more likely. I think the amount of runs that there are going to be in this game, that there should be, at least from the Giants. I know the Steelers are going to do it. It's going to keep the clock rolling, and, you're not stopping the clock for first downs. This isn't college. And it's just going to be a low-scoring game, in my opinion. I would personally consider the under. And with that, I will also give the take that I think the Steelers are going to win. 21-13. Give me the under, as I said, and give me Pittsburgh -6. I stated before that I think we could survive the Andrew Thomas injury, but that it's not going to happen like in the first 2 or 3 weeks. It's going to be like 4 or 5 weeks down the line. The Giants are going to figure it out, and the offensive line is going to look a lot better. But this is not the get-right game for that. You're versing one of the most ferocious pass rushes in the NFL. TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, Cameron Hayward. I'm sure I'm even, what's his name? Keanu Benton. He was a rookie last year. One of the best defensive rookies that we had seen, right? Him and Jalen Carter were the 2 best interior guys, I believe. So, like I said, this is a ferocious pass rush. It's kind of an awful matchup for the Giants offensively. I kind of like that we're playing the same game, but they're definitely better at it than we are. There's no chance we go into Pittsburgh and have a better defensive outing, and Daniel Jones outplays Russell Wilson. I mean, the offensive casts are even similar. I mean, you got Pickens and Neighbors, and then not much behind it. You got offensive lines that were pretty good at the start of the season and then suffered some injuries. You got questions at quarterback, probably more questions for the Giants. And then you've got sort of a collection of running backs and tight ends. So offensively, very similar. They totally got the edge defensively, but it's similar on that end too. Good defensive front. Corners are good enough if the pass rush gets there, and the linebackers are good it's kind of insane how similar these two teams are. I'm just going to keep hammering on that. But that is all for this video. Please leave a like if you enjoyed and subscribe if you're either a Giants fan or an NFL fan and you either want to watch me suffer or you want to suffer with me. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss when that's going to happen. And other than that, like I said, thank you for watching. Peace out.